Welcome to Coming Clean with Indy Lee, a podcast series about living with passion, acting with purpose, and being fully present. I'm your host, Indy Lee. In today's episode, I sit down with Alisha Ramos. She's an entrepreneur who started Girls Night in 2017. What started as a weekly email newsletter is now a true media brand and community that spans online and in real life. Can't wait for you to learn more. Hello, everybody. Today, I am so excited to have today's guest on the show. It's Alisha Ramos, founder and CEO of Girls Night In. And as people know, I am an introvert. So staying in for me has always been a huge part of my routine. But Alisha started a company based on this. So that's kind of why I fell in love with her. And we recently did a master class with her Girls Night In squad. And so I couldn't be more excited to have you on the podcast today. So Alisha, tell me, as someone who started a brand on staying in by choice, like how did that even come about? Like, tell me a little bit about that. I'm really interested in what the experience has been now that we've been in a pandemic, all of that. I'd want to hear from you, what made you decide to do something like this?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. First of all, I'm so pumped to do this. Big Indy Lee fan. So how did I start Girls Night In? It was a passion project in the beginning. This was around end of 2016. The election had happened, and at work, I was feeling a little bit burnt out for various reasons. I was working on healthcare.gov, actually on the design team, kind of, reimagining the consumer experience. And we were so excited, to make that website a little bit more accessible for folks and a better experience. And then, of course, the administration shifted, and we could no longer, a lot of the processes, a lot of the people changed over, a lot of the policies changed. And so I felt burnt out in the way that, not because I was working so hard, but because I kept running into this wall of, I really want to do my job, but I can no longer do my job. Yeah. So it's that kind of burning out of, not feeling fulfilled at work.
Which I think a lot of people feel throughout their life at different points. Yeah. But what's so impressive about you is you actually did something about it. A lot of people stay in that.
Thank you. It took me a while, though, to get out of that rut and just figure out, okay, this isn't working. So what other pathways can I explore? Feeling really unfulfilled. And I remember I went back home and was sitting at my parents' dining table, just kind of journaling and doodling. And I've always wanted to start my own company, but I'd never, I didn't have an idea. I didn't have a eureka moment at all. So I just listed out all these different ideas of, and I actually still have the list that I can send you, but it was literally things like board games for women in their 20s, a box of curated goods for people who want to celebrate their friends or just stay cozy and stay in. And I just found this pattern throughout all of those items that I was getting really excited about this general idea and ethos of being cozy, staying in, celebrating the fact that at the time I was 26, I think, just celebrating the fact that I would rather stay in than go out to bars. My friends are some of the most important people and just aspects of my life. And I really wanted to celebrate that feeling of having them over to watch trashy TV show, The Bachelor or something. Yeah. Which such great memories doing that. And I wanted to celebrate that feeling. And so it was more of a feeling than an idea. I didn't have, I didn't have a business model. I had no idea what that was or how to.
Me neither. So one. FYI, I winged it too.
Oh, great. That's how a lot of these things start, though. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So I had that idea. And one of the things that I love doing is writing. I love writing. I love communicating through words. I think I'm a much better written communicator than verbal communicator.
I think you're nailing it, so don't worry.
Thank you. And also at the time, I didn't have money. I didn't have capital to be like, oh, I want to create this like box that's all these products. Like I had $0 to put towards that at that time. So I just did what I knew and loved, which was writing. So I created this newsletter. I shared it with my friends, and I think that first issue went out to like 100 people-ish. Mm-hmm. And then the unexpected happened, which was people really loved what I was sharing. I think everybody else was kind of feeling like a little bit anxious from the election cycle and just what was happening in the world. And I remember I got a text from my friend, or a tweet or a text from my friend Kelsey, and she was like, "This is exactly what I need right now. Thank you for doing this."
Oh, I love
and
that.
It was just
that.
messages. Yeah, it was just like, I'm sure you've had those moments too, but it's just like those messages and those words of encouragement that helped me to keep going. So I did. And then eventually it grew and grew and grew, a natural point where I was thinking about Girls Made It more than work, and it just wasn't fair to my employer to stay there. So I remember I had a sit down conversation with my boss. He was like, "So what's your like business plan?" Like, like maybe I'll open a space, like maybe I'll do this. And I kid you not, he looked at me and he goes, "I'm worried about this. I'm like worried about you. Like I care. I'm like very excited and like I care about you, but like I don't think that this business makes any sense."
If I tell you how
Which
much
was fair.
I had the same thing. When I tell you that I told my family that this is what I'm going to do, they're like, "You're what?" I don't understand. You don't know anything about the beauty industry. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't care. I know I have to. I know in my soul that this is what I need to do. And you kind of don't listen to it. And you just go. But I do think, and I mean, that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is that when you love what you do and you're passionate about it, you're on a mission. And it's not about starting a business. It's about being on a mission of creation, about change, about filling purpose in your life and realizing there are so many other people out there who are feeling very similar to you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay. So you have this idea, it is resonating. It's interesting because it's probably at the same time, I never say it right. Higgy, like that whole comfort.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Movement is also happening where people are like, slow it down, stay in. Like your timing was dead on.
It was good. And I tell that to people all the time. I get questions of, like, how did you grow this thing so quickly? How did this happen? And I tell them, I don't know. I didn't have a growth strategies playbook. It was really just the right message at the right time. The timing is everything. And I'm sure like in your business growth, that is also the case. Like people suddenly became so interested in clean beauty.
Absolutely. I mean, the timing was perfect. Probably more so now. I mean, obviously clean is no longer a trend. It is here to stay, but when I started, it wasn't as much, but I knew it was something. And I knew when I spoke about it, people were like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I'm always still amazed that people don't realize like the lack of regulation, et cetera. But I knew that that's why I was living. So I totally get it. Now, how fast did it grow? Like when did you know you were like, okay, this is much bigger than I really anticipated because this is happening quickly?
Oh gosh. I don't remember the exact pace, but I do remember by the time I quit. So I quit my full-time job 6 months after the first issue went out. Yeah. So that was pretty quick,
That's
I guess.
Quick.
And by that time, I think we were at like between 10 and 20,000 subscribers.
Wow.
I want to say, yeah. So it was pretty fast. I still remember walking down the streets of DC with my now fiance, and I was just glued to my phone to my MailChimp app because we were about to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I was so excited.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I was like, oh my God. I remember, wait, people are buying off our website? Like, well, that's kind of what's supposed to happen.
Right. It's just so surreal when it does happen and you put something out into the world and real people you don't know are like consuming it and buying it and loving it. Like that's the magic of entrepreneurship to me.
I agree. I completely agree. Okay, so pandemic starts. Now, did you see like all of a sudden there was a huge spike? Like people are like, okay, we're in this pandemic. I don't know how to handle this. Or they're looking for an outlet or they're looking for a resource to feel comfortable in this new uncomfortable situation.
Yes, definitely. We have seen growth in the sense that our messaging is more relevant now than ever before because everyone is having a night in.
Uh-huh.
And at the very beginning of the pandemic, me and our team a while to kind of find our footing. We couldn't find our feet for a while. I think the same is probably the same for a lot of people. Because it was an awkward position because our brand, our whole mission was to embrace staying in as a joyful act and as a choice. Mm-hmm. And now we're in this moment in time where it's no longer a choice. It's a mandate and it's literally a life or death situation.
Yes.
So it brought a whole new gravity to our brand, our mission, our team, and the way that we were thinking about editorial. And I think in that way, we felt a great sense of responsibility to treat this moment with that same sense of gravity. And we definitely pivoted our content a lot. Whereas before our content was very lighthearted, very, like, here are the Netflix shows you should watch, to more, we actually ended up creating a microsite called stayhometakecare.com, where every day we would post one thing, one resource for you based on how you were feeling. So we had it's still us, but we had on there, like, I want to help others. I want to entertain my kids. I want to feel comforted. I want to be entertained. So I think at that point we understood that people were processing that moment in very different ways. Like some people were jumping into helping mode. Like I feel so helpless, so I want to help others. Like that's kind of how I am personally. But other people were strictly looking for comfort shows, comfort food, like recipes, what have you. So we created that site. And luckily, I think a lot of our readers really appreciated it. It got shared around a lot. And I feel so proud of our team for doing that because we actually made it in 7 days from idea launching.
How big is your team? I'm just curious.
We're 7 full time.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
But a lot of, like part-time contractors and partners too. But yeah, I think I'm curious to your perspective, but I think I really just jumped into crisis mode leadership, and that's usually, I found through this experience, like that's where I thrive in work. Like when things are going wrong, like I tend to take a step back and say like, okay, keep calm. We need to figure out a plan. We'll get through this. And especially when you're leading a team, I think they're looking to you for that direction and that sense of calm and like confidence. So yeah. I think I grew a lot and I'm still growing a lot as a leader because of this moment.
I honestly think we all are. I think when it first started here, obviously I'm in New York. All of a sudden it was fast and furious and we became the epicenter, and I'm up in Westchester. So that's where it actually went down first, right near us. And the first thing we did was, okay, let's make sure everybody on the team is safe. So take your stuff, bring everything you need and go home. We're closing the offices. I'm really lucky because I have, an investment team who is so much more than just money. They really are helping to run the ops, the finance, a lot of the brand strategy with me, and I'm very blessed. And they supported this. I mean, the leadership from that top right down to where we are. I mean, it was just incredible. And
That's
so
great.
for me, it was, okay, how do I meet people where they are now? And how do I continue to provide some sort of normalcy and then value? And so that's when I was like, you know what? I used to travel every week. So why don't we do these master classes via Zoom? And like we did one, like it works, it's seamless.
Yeah.
And we're meeting people at home where they're comfortable and providing something for them to do because they can't go out. And it was things like that. Okay, let me get on lives. How do we support the retailers? Let me do a Zoom masterclass with their customers. How do we provide that? How do we talk about taking care of ourselves? And so I agree. It was a lot of pivoting, but I couldn't be prouder about how the entire team, we just rallied. Like, okay, we're going to figure this out.
That's amazing. And I love the masterclass. I know you did one with our community. It was so fun.
They're so fun. I did one this week and it really it fills my cup because I'm not going out right now. And, you know, as I said, I'm an introvert, or I'm an extroverted introvert, I would say, but I still like to go out. I like and see my friends. I was traveling, which filled another side of me, but it was exhausting, you know, and after I would travel, I would absolutely need the downtime and alone time, but I was used to that pace. So then all of a sudden everything's just stopped. It was like, well, what's my purpose? Like, what am I going to do? Do I have value? And it was a little bit of reinventing myself as well, which I think we're all going through still.
Totally. Definitely. A lot of pivoting, a lot of reinventing, a lot of like self-reflection on what is important to you and how can you live your life and also build your business with more intention, like based on what you believe in.
I agree. Value, your value to your customer, your community, your team, it becomes so much more relevant than I think we go through. I'm speaking for myself. We go through life and we go through the motions. And I think we get on that reel of, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And we go through our daily lives, but we forget sometimes to stop and realize what's important and where are we going and why are we going. And I think this pandemic, aptly named the Great Pause, is really just that. It's forcing us all to pause and take stock of what is important in our life and what is a need versus a want. And you realize the needs are really much, much smaller than what we've been thinking they are. It is 100%. The basic food, clothing, shelter. You know, it's those. And love and compassion. And I think when you have that, and I think, you know, I've always said social media can be the greatest tool, but it can be also such a problem, like a distraction, etc. But my gosh, thank goodness, because I always say, don't socially distance, physically distance, stay socially connected. And I think that the social apps and the Zooms, etc., has allowed us to stay connected in ways we probably never thought were so important before. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. What before pandemic and post pandemic, and it might not have changed, what did Friday nights look like for you?
You know, Indy, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic look very similar for me.
I had a feeling.
Which it's like a comforting thing a little bit. But my fiance and I do carry out Fridays. So we're pretty good now about cooking throughout the week. We've just kind of we've all been forced into that like home cooking mindset, which has also been really fun. But Fridays, we treat ourselves to, you know, a local place that we love, whether it's like sushi or Chinese or pizza or whatever it is. So we do that. And we do what I think a lot of other people do, which is sitting on the couch and watching a show. And we have binge watched so many great shows this pandemic.
Thank goodness for Prime Video, Netflix. I mean,
yes, all the things. I signed up for Disney Plus. Like I have everything now.
Same thing. I watched Hamilton for the first time the other day. I now understand why my daughter's obsessed. Like the same thing. I mean, and we did a lot of puzzles. I did a lot of board games with the kids. And I have a 20-year-old, a 17, and a 9. So it ran the gamut. But we did a lot of cool things like that. We planted in the greenhouse. My greenhouse hadn't been so fully planted in probably 5 to 6 years because so busy with the business. It is, I mean, I eat out of the greenhouse now, like pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
Every meal has something from the greenhouse.
I want greenhouse tips. I've been into gardening. I'm a beginner gardener now. Thanks to the pandemic, I sowed my first seeds in April and now they're out on my balcony, like in full bloom. I love it. And it's so awesome.
It is such a joy for me to go outside and pick cucumbers or tomatoes or go get herbs. You know, we made a pasta sauce and like everything other than the meatless meat. I don't know what you want to call it. Everything was from the greenhouse. I mean, all the herbs and even the onions, everything was from the greenhouse. It's so cool to feel so connected. And by the way, I'm the worst cook. So it was a lot of help. I am really the person who just picks the stuff out. I'm not cooking it. I love it. So how do you stay true to the values that Girls Night In was founded on while balancing running Girls Night In? I mean, you're running a growing company. So how do you stay true to that? And I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
It's a really hard thing to do. Well, first off, our values, I would say, are definitely care. So taking care of yourself and also taking care of others and connection. Mm-hmm. So the first one, taking care, is really tough. As a founder of a small, growing company, I definitely struggled with that the first 2 years. I mean, I still struggle with it, but I really struggled with it the first 2 years. You know, like I was working until, I don't know, 9, 10 p.m. at night. And then taking a step back and saying, wait a minute, I'm running a self-care company and I'm taking care of myself.
I am a card-carrying member of that squad.
Yeah. So then the guilt starts getting to you, and then you're like, start
am
spiraling.
I being fake? Because I'm trying to build a company based on this missions, this ethics, these values, and I'm not taking my own advice. Yeah. It's hard. I know. Exactly. I have the same thing.
It's really hard. And I really didn't get over that hump until I was able to expand our team and get, of course, help and a lot of the items that were on my plate off my plate. And that felt amazing. I think now, luckily, through a lot of like intention and also through a lot of like input from our team, actually, because our team is very much focused on our value, like very, very much values driven, and always pushes me, which I'm really grateful for, to help us live by our values. So I think through that, I've been able to develop much healthier habits, especially as it comes down to work-life. That I don't love that term.
I don't use it because I'm like, there's no such thing. I mean, let's be honest.
Boundaries? Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna say, you heard it here. It's work-life boundaries. I love that. That is the
work-life
perfect.
Boundaries.
There you go. Use it on Girls Night In because that is what that is.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me at least, it starts with very simple rituals that I put into place around work-life boundaries. So one example is our whole team, actually, we're all in Slack now. We sign off whenever we like say, good night when we sign off. And all of us usually sign off around 5 or 5:30, which creates this normalcy around signing off and not being available off hours.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not. I suck at that. Yep. Considering I did a training up until 9:00 last night, but I love that.
It comes in ebbs and flows.
I know, and you know what? I'm the first person to tell my team, do what I say, not what I do, because at the end of the day, you can't help it being the position you are, but I love that you're normalizing that those boundaries are healthy, they're important, and that doesn't make you less productive. And honestly think it makes you more productive because you get what you need to get done. Your work will always expand to the time you give it. So if you give it just that time, you'll get it done.
I think the word normalizing is really important because I'll also, I go to therapy appointments, I'll go to life appointments, and I'll say to the team, I'm hopping offline for an hour to go to therapy. And I think that creates like, oh, it's okay to do that. We have a teammate, Olivia, who I think you've met. She has a wonderful ritual every Thursday where she takes like an hour walk to chat with her mom.
Oh,
and I think that's
that.
the best. I think that's awesome. And it inspired me actually to go for an hour long walk and think is what I called it yesterday, where I just took an hour long walk and thought about some problems or like challenges that we were having. And I took voice memos in my phone while I was walking.
I love it.
And it just helped me get my movement in and just like little things like that, just normalizing.
I agree.
Is important. Yeah.
I completely agree. I love walking and hiking and stuff like that. And I don't often make the space for it during the day because I feel guilty, even though I'm working, because I'm thinking, or even when I'm researching things, unless I'm putting the pen to the paper or numbers to a spreadsheet, sometimes I forget that work can look differently, or if I'm taking pictures or filming something, that is work. Like it's going,
yeah.
Like this morning I filmed doing my routine and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not done yet. It's 9 o'clock. I'm like, I'm sitting here filming myself getting ready. This is work. So I think I love what you're talking about, normalizing. So Girls Night In has this, you guys are completely community driven, which is, I think, what I love about it is it's very much similar to me. Like whenever I talk about why I started the company, it was really to create this community where people feel empowered to live their healthiest version of their life, which is very similar in ethos to what Girls Night In is. It's about taking self-care. Why is this so important to the Girls Night In brand? And like, how do you plan to expand it? I know you have the lounge, so I'd love for everybody to tell us a little bit about how Girls Night In works and why that it's, as a community, how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for any listeners who don't know what Girls Night In is, we're primarily a weekly newsletter. So we write content, but we are very community driven and we've been like that from the beginning. And I think your question of why is a really good one because I actually never stopped to think about why that is. Of course, as a business, there are advantages to that, but I think it kind of, for me at least, it goes deeper than that. Like I personally have been a child of the internet for so long. I grew up on, this is so nerdy, but I grew up on like LiveJournal, Neopets, Tumblr, like all those online communities. And so I think it's very personal. I love sharing an idea or something and having someone respond and having that conversation. That's always been so important to me, like in my soul.
Love.
Yeah.
Now
You're
it makes
like
sense.
nodding your head.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? Because I didn't grow up like that. You have to realize I grew up when there was not an internet. There were no computers when I was growing up. I mean, I was already out of college when first cell phones. And when I say cell phone, it was basically a huge box. But that connection is so different. And there's so much value in it.
There is.
And the reach and the impact that you can have cross borders, cross everything where you never had that before. So it's interesting to see, you see it as part of your way you grew up in your life and that interconnected and what feeds you. And I look at it so differently because I didn't grow up with it. And now I'm like, look at the opportunities, look at the potential to create change, to effectuate positivity in other people's lives. So I love that that's how you see it. And it makes perfect sense. So how do you expand on this and tell people a little bit about the lounge?
Yeah, absolutely. So before talking about the lounge, just chatting about, I should share why it came about.
Yeah.
So we, at the very beginning of Girls Night In, our readers wanted book clubs. And so I said, okay, let's do book clubs. And we had volunteers in 10 cities hosting these monthly Girls Night In book clubs. But it was very difficult to scale to the many, many more cities where people wanted these, our readers wanted these. So we developed a members only community called The Lounge, where you can join, and we empower our members to host their own gatherings.
Oh, I love.
Yeah.
So it's like little micro.
Micro, yes, like smaller gatherings. It doesn't have to be a book club, but we still do those, of course. People have done cookbook clubs, skincare meetups where they just try on, new things, podcast discussions. We had someone do like a DIY night making wreaths for holiday. Just like so many different, people get so creative, which is the most fun part of running the community. Hala is a member of the lounge, and she pitched a pickling gathering. Uh-huh. So she is helping other members learn how to pickle like cucumbers.
Oh, I've got to do that because I've got more cucumbers than I know to do it. Okay. Yeah. Noted, writing the pickling community because something I want to do.
Yeah. So the lounge is just a wonderful way for us to be able to scale this community. It was originally in person, actually. So we launched it in beta last year, and we had people like strangers going over to strangers' homes for book clubs, cookbooks, dinner, it was pretty wild. And it was everything that I've dreamed of as someone whose like friend network is moving away, and who is in this neighborhood that I can make a connection with. So it was really cool. And then the pandemic hit. So all of our gatherings are virtual, but if you're interested in joining and becoming a member, you should check out the lounge. It's at lounge.girlsnightin.co.
So we're absolutely going to put all of this stuff in the show notes because I want people to know how they can reach you. So I always end the podcast with 3 questions, and because my life is based on what I call passion, purpose, and being present. So what are you currently passionate about?
Selling Sunset on Netflix.
Okay, I love it. That's awesome. Okay. And what is giving you purpose?
Ooh. Right now, what's giving me purpose is, oh my gosh, that's a tough one. It's a good one. I think what's giving me purpose right now in this moment, I don't know how to articulate it. I actually am getting married soon. So I'm thinking a lot about the future and how to build a strong family and just that side of my life. So I guess family. Yeah.
That's a huge purpose. That's a great purpose.
Yeah.
Yep. That's pretty powerful. So what do you practice in order to remain present on a daily basis?
I turn off screens. That's huge for me.
Wow.
Is going back to boundaries, setting that boundary with technology. And every night I write something in my journal. I keep one by my nightstand. And I always have a book on my nightstand. And just like that moment of being alone with no screens, no distractions, just being alone with my thoughts is keeping me present.
I love that. I need to turn off the screen. It's bad. And that does keep me from being present. So I love it. I am obsessed. So how can people follow you? I mean, I'm going to obviously put in the show notes, but I want you to give a shout out to ways people can get to know you and Girls Night In.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Alisha Ramos, and Girls Night In is on Instagram at Girls Night In Club. You should definitely sign up for our newsletter, girlsnightin.co.
All right. Amazing. And in there are the links to the lounge, etc. for like various different.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
I think you are phenomenal. I think you are truly a pioneer in helping people look at self-care differently, because I think when people really are, first of all, I think self-care, the word is being played out way too much now. Not that I don't think it's important, but I think it's gotten watered down and people just think it's, you're taking you're drinking a smoothie and you're putting on a face mask. It is for me, and I know for you, because we've talked about this even in the masterclass, it is finding balance, mind, body, and soul. And so thank you so much for sharing and creating a community that's based on helping people live their best life. You are an inspiration.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. And thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you.
Love all Indie Lee products.
Thank you.
And your story is amazing too. So I'm so glad that we're able to have
Me too.
connection.
Me too.
Yeah.
And more to come. So I'm excited because I want to sign up for the lounge. I want to see what this is. As someone who likes to stay in, I don't know why I haven't done that yet. So
I'll send you an invite.
I will accept and absolutely be a part of it. And hopefully some of the people listening to this podcast will then join as well and catch me on there. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to everybody listening to this. Thanks again to listening to this week's episode of Coming Clean with Indie Lee. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. And as always, if you have ideas for upcoming episodes or guests, please feel free to email me at comingclean@indielee.com.